Welcome to the messy middle of entrepreneurship, unfiltered and unapologetic. Uncensored Entrepreneurs, hosted by Star Cod, Robert Wall, and Tina Torres Wilson, brings you real stories from the trenches of building a business. Those late nights, hard lessons, big wins, and everything in between. This is where the truth about entrepreneurship lives. No fluff, no filters, just raw, honest conversations with founders who have lived it. So, if you're over the highlight reel and you're ready for the real deal, hit play. A lot of companies start with a business plan. Green Goo started in a chaotic family kitchen with mason jars, herbs, and 3 women trying to solve a problem the natural way. Today's guest, Jodi Scott, is the co-founder of Green Goo, a nationally distributed plant-based first aid and skincare brand used by families, military communities, medical professionals, and wellness consumers across the country. Jodi's journey is anything but traditional. A former pre-med student turned herbal entrepreneur, she built a company rooted in whole plant formulations and natural healing, sold it, and then made the rare move of buying it back to rebuild the brand on her own terms. She's run businesses from her farm, from the passenger seat of her car, with 2 dogs and a laptop, and everywhere in between. Jodi believes businesses can be mission first, transparent, and deeply human. And she's living proof that her purpose driven growth is possible when you trust with your intuition and you stay rooted in your core values. Jodi, welcome to Uncensored Entrepreneurs.
Thank you. It's great to be here with you. That was perfect. I think we're good.
So excited to have you with us. And one of our co hosts, Tina, is not here today, but she'll be joining us back soon. So, Jodi, your story is so interesting. We're so excited to hear more about it. We know our audience is going to totally relate to your journey. And so, we like to look at this as the kitchen experiment that turned into a national brand for you. So, let us know what was happening in the kitchen or what's prompted you to even start Green Goo.
It was a wild ride, I tell you what. So, I got my master's in health psychology, specialized in psychoneuroimmunology, was pre med, and training resident physicians on the biopsychosocial model. So, as fantastic as that sounds, there was nothing in there about a P&L, running cash flow, payroll, building a team. So, I was completely outside of my comfort zone at the time. And my sister is an herbalist and a midwife, and she was going to herb school. And my aha moment was I was pregnant and I opened up my first aid cabinet. I got a cut and I thought, okay, I need to go put some antiseptic on it. And I read the ingredients and I was like, wow, here I am living a really clean life. I'm super cognizant of what I'm ingesting, what I'm putting on my body. But for whatever reason, I'm willing to make that exception with my first aid products, including my first aid cabinet was just an absolute disaster. And I thought, there's too much going on in here and there's no sustainability. So I went to my sister and she was just starting to make topical therapeutics. And I shared with her, I was like, I can't believe I'm willing to put this on my body when we're so aware of harmful ingredients. And I'm like, are we alone? And what I found is that we weren't, the natural consumer was willing to abandon their natural ethos because they were told these one time use chemical laden products were the only solutions to get the job done. So then I started looking into this further and I found chronic skin conditions are at an all time high. And the conventional consumer was also dissatisfied over OTC, but for different reasons, for efficacy. Here they were suffering from chronic skin conditions, less concerned about the ingredients and more concerned about these things aren't performing for them. Use 7 to 10 days. If symptoms persist, which they often do, go see your physician. And of course, we have this mindset in first aid that if it doesn't sting or burn or dry out your wound, it must not be working. So that's when my mom's sister and I huddled up together and we said, well, let's take my sister's herbal wisdom and my pre med background and let's see if we can reinvent first aid. Let's make a plant based solution that is superior in efficacy first. And oh, by the way, sustainable and clean ingredients. So Green Goo was born.
Wow. First of all, we can relate because we talk a great deal on this show about switching our products from this chemical driven society to more of an herbal based, all natural. experience. But even that is hard. Like you said, you never would have thought you were already living that life. And then here it comes first aid, nothing I would have even thought of either. We have many different people that come on the show that have a product that they've tried to launch, right? Maybe something in skincare, wellness, the health industry. And it tends to just have its ebbs and flows. Maybe they launch something, but it stays very small and then it tends to fizzle out at times. Did you ever think when you first launched this that it was going to become a national brand?
No, not at all. So we're literally growing the herbs in our backyard. We've got bees. We're drying the herbs on old screen doors on our front porch. I'm sure people driving by are going, "What is happening over there?" And we're producing the product, these formulas in our kitchen, and we just start selling it at the farmer's market because we're like, who doesn't love the farmer's market? We'll be able to do some bartering, bring home some goodies. And what we found is that we were very quickly the longest line. And we had so many customers sharing with us. My son, who has eczema, is finally not embarrassed to go to school now that this is under control. I've been suffering from chronic pain from various injuries. Now I'm out enjoying my adventures. We'd have weekend warriors lifting up their shirts, showing us these giant gashes. And they're like, I used to put dirt in it when I'm on my mountain bike. Now I just put green goo. So what is happening? And then our kitchen production became so busy that we actually had to take our camping equipment and build an outdoor kitchen so we could cook our food. And so everything happened very quickly. And then customers who didn't live in Idaho, where we first started, called and said, "Hey, I got your green goo at the farmer's market. And can I reorder on a website?" And we thought, well, that's an interesting concept. I guess we should have a website. So there was a lot of those very just small steps and constantly learning. Our first retailer that reached out to us and said, "Hey, we'd love to carry your product." And we thought to ourselves, well, what does that mean? Well, you need to have UPCs. We need a line sheet. We need a price sheet. All right. Well, we don't know how to do that, but we'll do that. And I think the constant theme was being comfortable with not knowing and willing to learn and pivot as we go. And I'll never forget going to my first major retailer meeting, and we grew up in the military, so we were really passionate about bringing Green Goo to our servicemen and women because they're oftentimes the last people to get innovation. As well, my dad had been taking Green Goo with him on his deployments, and what's great about our first aid formula, it is your first aid kit on the go. So in this little tiny tin, it's for cuts and scrapes, but bug bites, bee sting, ingrown toenails, chafing, sunburns, and chapped lips. So it's really great for the military personnel to just put it in their little pocket in their fatigue and be out and deployed. And a little bit of being naive is great, right? So I just started asking questions, how to get in front of these people. I got the meeting and I'm sitting there in the waiting room and this other person there was selling diapers and she goes, this is the second largest retailer in the world. And I was like, "No," and I didn't need to know this because I was already scared, and now I'm more scared. And we went into that meeting, and of course, they rattled off a number of acronyms, but said yes. And so I got out of that meeting, called my family, said, "We got in. I have no idea what we agreed to, but we got in."
Yeah, you guys did really amazing there. So I want to take it back to those early days, Jody. I know that you mentioned that you were pre-med, and a lot of our audience, they have this idea of what they're going to be doing in business. And then either that shift or that pivot happens, or they land up doing something else, or they're looking to do something else. How did you shift from pre-med into this herbal space?
We were always passionate about natural living and cleaner living. We were athletes, and so at an early age, we made the connection of food is fuel and clean food meant better performance. So I think we were ready for that. And then my mom was just a lover of plants. It was funny because we moved around so frequently in the military, she didn't want to plant a garden and then leave it. So we would always have a bunch of potted plants that moved with us from place to place. So it was always entertaining to have all of us kids in the car with potted plants because they couldn't go with the movers. And so I think shifting from the traditional medical system into herbalism and natural care was a natural organic, ironically, no pun intended, shifting into that. Now, from a business perspective, I'd say I was the last to know when, as my family says, drawing straws on who was going to be the CEO. And I always tease them that I drew the short straw. They were like, "Of course, this is your role. Of course, this is what you're supposed to do." And I was the last to really understand that I had that business acumen that they all saw. Now, I'll say in terms of the success moments during those early days, it was very much about utilizing my network and being confident to ask for help. If someone had familiarity with running a family business, because we had a family business and we had heard family businesses can become toxic or have challenges. So we wanted to really be good stewards and have good hygiene going into it. People who were in the financial sector and saying, hey, what do I do to build a financial tool or model so that I can forecast, do inventory management, and create cash flow? People who were in HR, what does it look like? What are best practices for recruitment and creating a culture? And so a lot of that is being comfortable and motivated to find those solutions so that you can continue to build that ecosystem and that blueprint that's going to be necessary for building a company.
Absolutely. I'm curious always with small business because, again, we've ran everything from brick and mortar to that online distribution based model as well. And one of the things I'm always fascinated with is that learning curve of bringing a product to market, how you continue to market it, and how you educate your client base. So, with everything being so pro big pharma, it seems like in the skincare and first aid industry, what are some of the challenges that you've seen? How do you overcome that mindset of someone that just wants to take their prescribed medication when it comes to plant-based healing and formulation that you do?
Oh, there's so much in there. So when we first started, no one talked about plant-based. That was not a term that people were using or even understood. So we were very much forging the path. I'll never forget sitting in front of a national pharmacy buyer and I said, I have a plant-based first aid. Those two words do not go in the same sentence. And if you think about what the natural space was, because the natural channel was really born from, call it the industrial revolution practices. So even rewind more, chemicals, man-made chemicals are born from the Industrial Revolution. No one meant to hurt anyone. We just all of a sudden could manufacture goods to a large number of people. More volume meant more value. We didn't have the technology, the infrastructure, the transportation we have today. We didn't have Amazon. So it took a long time for us to be able to create goods to get to people. So then, of course, man-made synthetics went in there to be fillers and for stabilization. Well, then the natural channel was born and they were following that same practice. So a lot of what people had been introduced to in a natural world were really just fragments of natural. It was more of let's avoid these ingredients and there's traces of this plant, maybe some calendula, traces of the arnica plant, some plant that had been exposed to high heat or different alcohol or chemicals that compromise the integrity of the plant. So most of the consumers were choosing natural because it was a choice. They wanted a healthier lifestyle. They wanted to promote this new emerging space. But you wouldn't think like, oh, I'm going to put this on a wound or I'm getting the best result. And of course, that brought the conventional consumer hesitation in terms of can it really perform? And of course, there's that cost barrier. So what was really interesting for us forging that path was the same way we were growing the herbs in our backyard and drying them on old screen doors, we had to maintain that process, which went very much outside of a traditional manufacturing SOP. And so it resulted in can we scale because the reason Green Goo works is not just the ingredients, but it's the process by what we make them. And when you find scaling an idea or a concept, it's not just about taking it to market. It's also where are you getting the parts and the pieces? And then can you do that in a way that still yields a price point where it's attainable for the consumer? So those were all things that we had to do in order
Wow.
to bring you to market.
Wow, huge learning curve just as a whole, let alone you're focused on the product and how it serves others. But then, like you said, you're testing the market, you're learning how to even run a business and how to create distribution and just everything all at once.
I was just gonna dovetail too, just in terms of the plant-based renaissance. And as an entrepreneur, oftentimes you are forging the path, right? A lot of innovation comes from looking at a different way of thinking. And so it is when you think about what you're doing from a marketing standpoint, I was on the road 3 weeks out of the month because not only was I meeting with buyers, because at the time, if you had a first aid issue, you go to your local pharmacy. If you've got poison ivy, you need it that same day. And that's a lot of in-person meetings. This is pre-pandemic. And so also I've got to go to trade shows. I have to go to different seminars, platforms, any opportunity that I could to share why these plant-based solutions could be superior in efficacy. And meeting with people in the medical field. John Hopkins has been using our solutions in their scleroderma and skin condition department for over a decade, finding those alliances so that we could continue to have a voice in the market. And so when I think about advice giving to other entrepreneurs is not looking at it from a linear perspective when you're marketing and think about a more holistic approach to being able to bring your message and your products forward.
I love that. I think that most businesses probably fail because it's so linear, right? They're not looking at it holistically from all angles.
Yeah, definitely, Robert. So, what do you find is like the misunderstood concept when it comes to plant-based healing and formulation? From a consumer's perspective, you tapped into this from an industry space, but what about for consumers?
Well, I think at the end of the day, there's been this notion that plant-based is a compromise. And the reality is, what we're doing at Green Goo is just bringing forward ancient wisdom that had anecdotal support, but at the time didn't have the science to back it. And it wasn't because the science couldn't be proven, the data can be proved. There just wasn't the funding or the interest in the market to do so. And what's been great, and I really saw this shift post-pandemic, post-Farm Bill, was all of a sudden there was a wave of research going into plant-based to prove that these ingredients could actually have the effect that they do. So we were registered with the FDA around 2016, and we were one of the first plant-based solutions to register and have that OTC monograph on the back. Now, my sister, being the herbalist, would love to say, well, I want to say calendula does 10 things. Now, we have to say on the packaging that it's an astringent. And yet we know in the herbal encyclopedia, we'll call it, it's an antifungal, anti-yeast, antimicrobial. It also is a skin repair, regenerates cells. It's an antioxidant. It's hydrating. Some of the newest research even supports that calendula flowers can stimulate the enzyme that is in the epidermis that regenerates your telomeres. So now we're just getting a lot more science backed data to show how these plants can work. And we're seeing more the Journal of Dermatology partnering with botanical groups and the Journal of Behavioral Medicine, even, and bringing that all together. So it's really fun now to be at this place where I feel like it's less about saying, does it work? And now I can provide more resources to show that it does.
That it does. That is amazing. In the very beginning, we're just talking about application. You just went over a couple of things. And one of the things you were like, something as simple as a hangnail. It actually immediately made me think about my daughter just a month ago. She had a hangnail. We've all had them, right? They come and go. You don't think anything about it. Hers actually got infected. And so it was swollen. Her finger was swollen for probably a month. We kept cleaning it. We put peroxide on it, right? We did all the little things and it finally did heal eventually on its own. But I wish I would have been able to try the green goo on something like that. It's just something as simple as that, but of course you use it for other applications as well.
That's unfortunate that they limit how you're able to package and market this product, especially because of the use cases. It sounds so incredible. So I'm glad that we're bringing awareness to this.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And again, back to the science information that's now available. I'd say 10 years ago, it was a question mark if paraben, petroleum, forever chemicals, phthalates were harmful. And what's great is we know today, without a shadow of a doubt, that that is true, that these are endocrine disruptors that compound over time and have a negative impact on our system. And the fact that we can say, hey, let's not only avoid these ingredients, but hey, there's even better solutions, which is really fun to be able to provide that. You would never give your kiddo a tube of something from the first aid cabinet, but you can give them Green Goo.
I love that. Seriously, I mean, I can't wait to just have some. And you said something earlier about clearing out your cabinet. I would love to throw away half of the stuff I have in there, right? Number one, I don't even use half of it. It just seems to be you accumulate over time. I'm so curious, right in the intro that our producer prepared for you, we talked about you selling your company initially and then buying it back. Do you mind just touching a little bit on what made you get to a point where you sold the company? And then what a huge, brave move to decide to buy it back and rebrand it. I'm so curious on both sides of that.
So here we were when the pandemic happens. So we are almost entirely, and I mean like 98% retail. And the pandemic happens, and all of a sudden, no one's in any stores. And I thought, oh my gosh, I am going to have to terminate my entire team. And we pivoted very quickly and built an online business when the rest of the world was doing the same. So distribution was backlogged, packaging, you couldn't find packaging at all. And when you could find packaging, you better have cash in hand and ready to pay. So you're prepaying now. And I had to build, I'd say 8 to 10 different distribution pods, centers for us to be able to get product to the world. And my entire family was working until 3, 4, 5 in the morning, shipping boxes as well. And it was a very difficult time. I watched a lot of businesses not make it. And when we got on the other side of that, one, we were really proud that we didn't have to let go a single employee and that our team had such incredible alignment and tenacity and creativity to be able to pivot and do what we did, which was fantastic. And I thought, we can't weather another pandemic. We can't weather another crisis. We're a small business, and the companies who did fine were the big players in this space. We're competing with the big guns. And so I said, okay, it's time for us to look for financial partners.
I hope you're enjoying this conversation. I want to take a quick moment to share something that comes up a lot with my clients. Selling doesn't have to feel heavy or exhausting. I work with course creators and coaches who are tired of launching all the time and not seeing consistent results. Inside Pink Door Marketing Agency, I help them build evergreen systems that work in the background and bring in the right people with ease. If you're ready to sell in a way that feels aligned, visit pinkdoormarketingagency.com. Now let's get back to the show.
That was the original intention. And then we were presented with an offer where it was a company that wanted to build a plant-based portfolio. So positive synergies, well-funded. One of their founders was an investment banker. So there wasn't any concern about the financial component because it had an element of startup to it. And they had an international footprint, and we were starting to get interest in a number of international countries. So it really worked well. And we were going to be a part of this organization. So we weren't going anywhere. So on paper, yes, it was selling, but really in practice, it was we were all becoming one. And unfortunately, a handful of weeks into it, one of the founders faced major legal and financial issues. And it included being raided by the feds and a number of big things. Unfortunately, what that did is it tarnished the reputation. It ultimately compromised the funding. And I had less than 24 hours to terminate my entire legacy team, including my mom and sister, my husband, my brother-in-law, employee number one. And that was a really tough moment, to say the least. And my team, I mean, they were like family. And for us, we helped them move through that process. Production had stopped. We're sitting at the kitchen table, all the tears, and just really reminiscing over the journey and just thinking like, wow, is this really it? This is how it ends? I pull out my lip balm and I realize, ooh, I'm not sure how many of these Green Goos I have left. And then I start thinking about my skin repair that I put on every night, my face oil that I use every day. And I'm like, Mom, what do you have? Jen, what do you have? And so we're calibrating each other's inventory. And my sister's like, are we going to have to start making this in our kitchen again? And then I'm getting emails. My son is a paraplegic. It's the only thing that works. My mom is a diabetic. It's the only thing that works. And I look at them and I'm like, we're going to buy this company back. But that's a great idea, but how? We've literally lost everything in this transaction. And I'm like, I don't know. We didn't have that solution solved yet. And I'll tell you, the critical shift and really what I attribute to being able to get it done, which is I had hired a coach maybe 2 months prior. And I'd heard, oh, these great CEOs have coaches. I should have one. And I met him through my conscious capitalism group. So I was very new to this partnership. And I communicated with him that Friday to say, hey, Monday, I'm not going to be able to show up. I lost my job, lost the company. I can't pay you. And we had a brief exchange back and forth. And he's like, Jodi, you show up Monday, 5 o'clock as scheduled. I will be there every Monday until you don't need me anymore. In the moment, although that was incredibly gracious and kind of him, I couldn't even wrap my head around that. When you have that much paralysis, I am anxious about the future. How are we going to pay our bills? I am overwhelmed with depression and paralysis because of all the shoulda, woulda, couldas. I couldn't even appreciate that gift. And so I had no intention of showing up to that meeting. Monday rolls around and I'm getting close to 5 o'clock. And I thought, oh, Timmy, that was so sweet of you. Overwhelmed with guilt. I thought, okay, I'm just going to show up and say thank you, but no thank you. And I get into the call and he's like, all right, what are you going to do? I'm like, I don't know. He talks about maybe buying the company back, but I don't know how we're going to do it. And he's like, okay, well, we're starting your mental fitness boot camp now. What does that even mean? Like, you are going to set your clock every 3 hours and you're going to do a presence exercise. And I'm like, first of all, set my clock for every 3 hours and stop doing, even though I'm doing nothing, but in my mind, I'm still doing 1,000 things. What in the world is a presence exercise? And he's like, you're going to stop what you're doing and you're going to put your feet on the ground and you're just going to feel your feet for 30 seconds. You're going to listen to the birds. You're going to watch the clouds. I thought, oh my gosh, this is nuts. You're going to feel your breath and you're going to do that every 3 hours for 30 seconds to 2 minutes. And we are going to get you mentally fit. And I don't have the answers for you, but you're going to find the answers by doing this work. The same way you go to the gym and you work out your body, you're going to work out your mind. I thought, this is nuts. But at this point, I will just, sure, Timmy. And so got off the next day, started the alarm. My husband goes, what are you doing? I'm like, Timmy told me to do this. I'm just going to do it. And of course, the first time I do it, all the thoughts are flooding in, just flooding in. And I'm like, there's no way this is going to work. And I thought, just drop in, just do this. And so every 3 hours, I did this, and the 30 seconds got more comfortable, and then a minute got more comfortable, and then I could do it up to 2 minutes, and then I started to look forward to it. And then as these Mondays, as we're checking in, all of a sudden, I'm like, hey, Timmy, I got this idea. And the best description I can give it is, when you see those little videos where it's like the Neanderthal human where they used to crawl and then they like slowly start.
The evolution
Yep,
of it.
yeah, posture, that is the
Yes.
best way to describe it. It was very slow, but then in that process, I started to become more confident, more resilient, more curious. I started to think creatively in terms of what I could do, and then I had to put myself in really tough situations in order to accomplish that. And for the first time, I understood the value of mental fitness in high performance and why it's so valuable. And not even just for high performance, but just to find more joy in life.
Wow. That's amazing.
Took me 18 months.
18 months to go through the evolution of crawling on your stomach and then gaining posture, right?
And buying back the company.
What was that buyback process for you, or how did you come up with that solution?
It was so many small steps of meeting with investors, meeting with mentors, meeting with people in the industry, going into board meetings, presentations, because it's not something easy to unravel. And then hoping that we could keep it alive long enough that it would still be of value to the world. I'll never forget that it was December 23rd or 24th. So it was right before the holidays that we signed on the dotted line. And I just sat there going, now what? It was so great to put in that first order for production. And it was a very slow process and very different from going 100 miles per hour. And what I recognized that in this 2.0 relative to the first time was that I was only operating at 20%, even though I was really, really busy. I was good at being busy, that I could do so much more. And so it's interesting to have that shift now in terms of being and being really present with the work, how much more productive I am. And then the best part was being able to send the mass email out to our customers to say, here we are, here's what happened. And the emails that came in that we were still their first choice was so great.
Most people would not be able to experience that kind of a turnaround. And I've seen a couple brands try to resurface and it never has the same impact. So the fact that you were able to do that really speaks high volumes, not only on obviously the Green Goo product itself, but you as a core, like meaning you, your team, the integrity. And so I do want you to expand a little bit on that in the fact that today's business, most people, it's just high paced. It's about volume driven. It doesn't necessarily have more of a service to assist and help others. So, speak a little bit about that. You have posture, you have some transformation. What is it like now, and what advice can you give others to really remain true to yourself, to be transparent, to be resilient, and just really show up to serve versus just being transactional?
Well, for me and for my family personally, it's such a gift to believe and want to serve wholeheartedly with what we do. I mean, such a gift and so much more gratitude that we have today than we ever have because we also love our jobs and so grateful to have these jobs. And I think because our culture was so clear, so our mission is spread goodness. And it's not just spreading goodness on our bodies, these clean ingredients, but it is how we treat each other. It's how you greet someone at the door and really bring that goodness forward and that contact with humanity. And then our mission is bringing forward time honored traditions. And that is protecting the integrity of our process and our formulas, which is what we do, still bringing the plants to our manufacturing facility, taking it through that process. And so for today, a great example is the cost to make our products is far more than it was 5 years ago, especially with taxes and everything else. And so instead of changing our formulas, which we saw a lot of people do, they decided to opt out for cheaper parts or smaller packaging. And instead, we said, we are still going to bring these same formulas to our customers. We're just going to change our model. So we might not be able to be in as many retailers because the cost to do business with them is more expensive. But we can at least maintain that price point on our website so that they can come in and still have access to these products. So when your mission and your vision is so clear, it helps maintain that integrity on a day-to-day basis and for your team. Your team has that clarity as well. The value that you can get on the day-to-day when you have purpose and
Mhm.
presence is so, so full. And the team, it's so different because I remember being in such go mode and I would go into a meeting after like having a frustrating moment. And then I would come in a very much a fight or flight moment. And then I'm like, why aren't we having a productive meeting? Why isn't anyone talking? Well, you think about how you as a leader showed up. Well, of course, everyone's like, whoa. And it's not creating that creative platform. And then instead, when you create this culture of presence and purpose, then all of a sudden I have an employee who comes into a meeting. It's like, I'm so sorry. I just got an email that just threw me off. I'm there. And what's great is when they could verbalize that and feel safe that they could share. But then perhaps it's we workshop how we can help serve that employee in that moment. Or it might just be as simple, they just needed to vent and then all of a sudden, rising tides raise all boats. All of a sudden, we're like being creative and better ideas are coming and we're more proactive and no one's worried about judgment of the other. And it really does change that ecosystem for higher productivity and more alignment and synergies within the organization.
I love that.
Yes, definitely. Well, Jody, we really love your mission. We love your vision and your values, the company that you guys have created. I know Robert and myself will definitely be purchasing from you. So, if you can share with our audience where they can find you and your products if they want to follow you on social media.
Yes, greengoo.com. That is the best place to buy Green Goo. We're also available on Amazon. You can find us on all the social medias at Green Goo Helps. And then you can also find me on LinkedIn at Jodi Scott. And please do reach out. I still, to this day, have when we do our retention marketing, it comes from my personal email. So I love when people respond to the email and they're like, assuming no one's going to answer, and then I do. They're just so surprised. And for me, that just really having that time with our customers and how we may be able to curate the right solution for them depending on what chronic skin condition that they're suffering from. And I oftentimes hear from other entrepreneurs who just need a little bit of guidance in the next step of their journey. So please do not hesitate.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. We've learned obviously just a little bit, just scratching the surface on Green Goo and that journey that you've had. Is there anything else on the horizon, Jodi, in regards to even just for you, you personally, your own journey? It sounds like you've built an amazing culture. And I know that just that in itself is a product. That is a gift that you can help serve other businesses with as well. So I don't know if you're out there trying to be on more podcasts, get on more stages to help empower other entrepreneurs.
Absolutely. I feel so much purpose in the journey that we've been in, that the greatest value that we can offer is sharing that story. And that's part of bringing forward time honored traditions, as part of that storytelling and experience sharing so that others can feel seen and feel heard. And so we'll continue to reinvent first aid and bring this nutritional skincare and also empower individuals and leadership to find that best version of themselves in this state of presence. And for me personally, that's going to be my greatest challenge and gift to myself is I'm going to do this 2.0 and maintain these practices and that mental fitness boot camp that I will continue in this next journey.
Healing outside and within, right? All at once. So, Jodi, thank you again so much for being on our show. And I will definitely be tapping in, learning a lot more about you, your products. And I can't wait no longer will I let my daughter have a hangnail for a full month when I know that there's a product that is clean and effective. So I look forward to some future conversations with you. And thank you once again. For those that would like to connect with Jodi, whether you're listening to this on podcast or you're watching it on YouTube, we will have all of the links and ways that you can connect with her in the bio and the information sheet. So thank you once again, Jodi. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you on another episode of Uncensored Entrepreneurs. Thanks for listening to the Uncensored Entrepreneurs. If you're getting value from the show, take a minute to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you tune in. It helps more bold entrepreneurs find us. Until next time, keep showing up, uncensored and unapologetic. And we'll catch you on the next episode.